Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with a brand new Jurassic World release, but this time we have one from Takara Tomy. There are two new figures out that they have kind of teased a little ways back, and they now have officially released. One of which you can see here is the Scorpius Rex, and that's pretty exciting if you ask me. You know, we never had a Scorpius Rex in the Takara Tomy line previously, so it is nice to finally have one, though I will say it does look kind of awkward. I'm not really sure what happened here with the Takara Tomy figures, but the Scorpius does have kind of an awkward look, a bit different compared to what I'm used to when it comes to the Takara Tomy line. Like, normally the figures are really well sculpted, just, you know, normally a little lacking in paint, but this one looks slightly awkward, I would say. But, you know, we won't truly be able to tell until we pop the box open and check it out. You can see some more images up here on the top of the figure. Same deal if we turn it to the side, another shot of the dinosaur, and then again, pretty much the same thing here on the back, except we now have an Atrociraptor and Velociraptor Blue joining the party back here. And then again, some more random dinosaurs over here, including the lovely Carnotaurus. But let's go ahead, pop the box open, and we'll check out our very cool, potentially, Scorpius Rex. So here is our Scorpius Rex, and it definitely looks awkward. Pretty much just as I expected it to. It definitely has a very strange look to it, but kinda still looks fun. Again, I mean, it's like got that Takara Tomy style, but honestly, I feel like they have a different sculptor working on these new figures. At the very least, this one for sure, but the Ceratosaurus potentially as well, which is the other brand new release from Takara Tomy. But let's go ahead and jump to a closer look, and we'll check this a little bit more thoroughly out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Scorpius Rex, you can see they basically have given it the overall sort of look and appearance of the Scorpius. I mean, something does kind of feel a little off to me. One thing that's definitely off are those horrible teeth, if you can even call them that. I don't even know what you would call that big blob of material in there, but I don't think I'd call it teeth. Let me go ahead and pull the mouth open. As we do have an articulated jaw, the teeth on the lower jaw look a little bit better, but obviously they're all sculpted together, considering the figure is obviously a bit on the smaller side. That's pretty much what I would expect them to look like. You can kind of see the inside of the mouth right there if my camera would focus correctly on it. Not really, I mean, it kind of looks like there's a tongue sculpted. Yeah, there's definitely a tongue sculpted. It's just not sculpted well on the inside of the mouth, and there is a pinkish tone pretty much everywhere. Not much in the way of fine detail on the inside of the mouth on the upper side. Funny enough, I feel like the teeth on the upper jaw look the best from this angle, because you can kind of make them out now as actually being teeth. But when we turn the figure and look at it from up here, again, it's just kind of like a big jumbled mess with sloppy paintwork. So not so great. If you had to repaint this, I feel like you could probably bring the teeth out in a better, more realistic way, but when it comes to the actual factory paint, that's pretty terrible. We do have a dark grayish tone for the primary body color. You can see a red eye with a black pupil. Not really all that great, but it stands out enough, I would say. You can also see the nostrils up here. The skin texture does look kinda strange, but I guess it looks alright. There's also a brown for the lower jaw, which you can see leading down through the course of the underside of the Scorpius. We've got like a little bit of a bulge here in the throat of the dinosaur. We do have the quills leading off of the back of the head, but they're very, very chunky looking, so they look slightly awkward, but they're pretty much what I would have expected for this type of a figure, again from Takara Tomy. As you continue to move down along the back of the dinosaur, the skin texture looks okay. If we get nice and close and my camera focuses correctly on it, you can see the skin texture looks decent in the stomach region leading up into the back. It's not overly impressive by any means, but it looks alright for what it is. We do have that sort of armored scoot-like appearance moving over the back of the dinosaur, which you can see basically following down from the back of the neck right there down through the back of the dinosaur. We do have extra large long arms for our Scorpius. You can see they do look a little bit awkward. I'm not really sure what it is exactly, but they definitely look strange. You can see some attempt at muscle definition moving down through the course of the arm. We can also see some quills there coming off of the back of the elbow. And as you lead down into the hands are sculpted pretty decently. You can see the fingers do have like a scoop-like appearance down them, and the nails are painted with a black, which is nice to see, of course, to, you know, see a Jurassic figure with actual paintwork on the nails of the hands. One unfortunate side for this one, though, is even though there looks to be like a seam right there for where the arm connects, it doesn't actually have articulation in the arms. The arms are completely stagnant. You can see I'm trying to force it, I'm just bending it, which is definitely a bummer because I feel like there was really no reason not to include arm articulation right there, but they chose not to. At least, you know, forward and back articulation would have been nice. As you move back down to the underside of the stomach, you see that brown tone continuing to follow along the underside, as well as some okay looking skin texture. The transition up from the brown to the dark grayish tone does look pretty decent, fairly natural. As you move back into the leg, you can see the muscle definition is definitely nicely present here on the thigh. As we lead down, we continue to see pretty much all of the elements that you know and love for the Scorpius Rex. We can even see, of course, the sickle claw. The toes are sculpted pretty decently. The nails are obviously very rounded at the edges, but these figures are kind of made for kids, so I'm not surprised that it would have that sort of thing going on. This one specifically, though, is pretty ugly, but it is nice to see the nails painted and everything like that. And then as we lead back up, you can see leading out into the tail, we continue to have that same sort of awkward-looking skin texture for our Scorpius, and as we lead out to the tip of the tail, you can see a whole bunch of quills out here on the end of the tail of the dinosaur, pretty much the way I would expect to see it. You can see the brown does end basically around 3/4 of the way through that second joint right there. We do, of course, have at least a little more articulation outside of the articulated jaw. You do have leg articulation forward and back, and of course that goes for both legs. And then you've got the awkward ball joints that you always get from Takara Tomy, which means you can move the tail up and down. You've got two different areas of this articulation, and if you want to go side to side, you basically just have to try to maneuver that ball joint. It's hard to turn the ball joint, but you can turn them, and then you can then go side to side. See, now we can kind of go side to side with it, but it sort of makes the tail look awkward, I would say. But overall, not really the greatest Scorpius Rex. You can see what it looks like from the opposing side. Kind of pretty much the same, more of the same, I would say, as far as that awkward look. And, I mean, it is still really fun and really cool to have a Scorpius in the Takara Tomy line. Definitely something I've been looking forward to for quite a while in hopes that they would do it, but the final product isn't quite as nice as I was expecting. As far as a size goes for the Scorpius, I don't really think we need to do many comparisons or anything with this. We will, of course, give it a measurement because you were looking at about 5¼ inches or around 13½ centimeters. And then for a height, you will see it at about 2 inches or a little over 5 centimeters. But of course, you could alter that because, you know, you can position the dinosaur in much more of an upright stance. So you could make it a bit taller if you choose to. I'm just basically standing it in the position that it balances fairly nicely in. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Scorpius Rex from Takara Tomy, and you can see it's nice and small, just as you would expect. If you are familiar with the Takara Tomy figures, this one is pretty much no different in size compared to any of the others. It pretty much fits right there in the same area as most Takara Tomy Jurassic World dinosaurs. And just in case you are not familiar with the Takara Tomy figures, here is a Toy Monster International and Mattel minifigure here. You can see next to the Scorpius, which the standard Takara Tomy size range is just a little bit larger than what I would consider a minifigure, but still pretty darn close to being a mini. And then for one final comparison, we also have the Takara Tomy Allosaurus here that had released quite a ways back next to the Scorpius Rex, just to kind of give you an idea of how two different Takara Tomy dinosaurs measure up next to each other here. The Allosaurus is a little bit larger than most Takara Tomy. For some reason, that one definitely got a little bit of size to it, but you can see the Scorpius Rex is pretty similar in size, just the Allosaurus is positioned upright a bit more so that it can balance out. So this Scorpius Rex from Takara Tomy is kind of fun, but it's definitely not a great figure. It's not one of the best in the line, and I know a lot of people aren't really a fan of Takara Tomy as a whole because of the ball joints that they include in the tail articulation, and I too agree. I wish they would come up with something different just to make it look a little bit more natural so we don't have those gaps in between the tails, but it is what it is. I think it's just kind of their style, part of their charm at this point. I don't think there's any turning going back for them and swaying away from that sort of look and feel. It's just the way their figures have always been. I personally would love to see them improve that, but it is what it is. But overall, again, the sculpt just looks kind of awkward on this one. Like, I think it looks okay, but it's not great. It's not quite as nice as I'm used to from Takara Tomy. I don't know if they have a different sculptor now working on their dinosaurs, or at least on the Jurassic World line, but this one just seems a bit different compared to the others, and also just seems a bit, I guess, lesser of quality compared to some of the others. Not saying it's bad, it just looks awkward. The paint apps on it, though, are pretty decent. You know, you do have paint from head to tail, and it's pretty much what you would expect when it comes to a Scorpius Rex. You also have the nails painted and everything, so that's a plus. The teeth are painted horribly, though, and the teeth in general just look awful on this figure. Maybe the worst teeth that I've ever seen on a Takara Tomy release. And they don't usually have great sculpted teeth because the figures are so small. They're kind of like, the teeth are always blended together, but these are like super blended together, almost to the point where you can't even differentiate one tooth from the other. So they don't look very good in that area. It does have some okay articulation, which is fun, but not a whole lot of it. And I feel like the arms being articulated would have been something that was just so obvious, and they chose not to do it. For some reason, it just, you know, like, I know Takara Tomy normally sticks to their guns when it comes to having only like the legs articulated or the arms, but not the legs. Like, they usually only pick a few areas and kind of stick with that, but the arms already have like the look of being articulated, and I feel like all they had to do was just pop them into the body, and they could have moved forward and back, because obviously it's not one solid piece. Those were added after, so I don't know. It just makes no sense to me. They should have articulated the arms as well. Regardless, it's still kind of fun just because it is a Scorpius Rex, and I do love the Scorpius. So if you are interested, I don't know for sure where you can get this quite yet. I was lucky enough to get this from my good friend Dino Mike Mac, who found it in Hong Kong and helped me to acquire it and add it to my collection. But I haven't seen it yet on eBay for any good prices. Like, normally, every time I see it, it's around like the $50 range, which is outrageous and not worth it for this figure. But I will try my best to find you guys a link to include in the description at the cheapest price I can possibly find it, but I don't know what that might be. So check the link in the description if I can find one, and of course, pick it up if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.